Welcome to the Rainy Day Rabbit Holes podcast, your escape from the mundane.
Dive into the rich history of the Pacific Northwest with us and let your mind wander down the rabbit hole.
Because in the Northwest, it's always raining something weird.
Let's fall down the rabbit hole. Quote, "It was pretty sad because for the first time I found out how stupid people could be. It sort of made me feel alone in the world. The more people pointed at me with scorn, the more stubborn I got, and when they began calling me the bad girl of West Seattle High, I tried to live up to it." Frances Farmer. Today, we're diving into the life of Frances Farmer, a Hollywood starlet whose name is synonymous with both fame and tragedy. From her rebellious youth in Seattle to her dramatic fall from grace, Frances Farmer's story is one of defiance, scandal, and ultimately a heartbreaking battle with mental illness. So grab your raincoats because this rabbit hole is as stormy as it gets. Da, da, da. That's our favorite.
I thought that was my part.
Oh, sorry. I took
that's
over.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You stole my thunder.
I actually write it in sometimes for you.
Well, welcome back to Rainy Day Rabbit Holes, everyone. I'm Shay.
And I'm Jody.
And with us today, we have two very, very special guests. We have from the Midday Musings Podcast, Stephen and Laura. Welcome to the show, guys.
It's so great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We are so excited to be on today.
You guys, what do you think about our kill room?
Exquisite. No notes.
I'm looking
One
for...
Sasquatch.
I'm wondering where the knives are, where the guns are. I'm kind of like, where are they? Where are they hidden? I need to keep an eye out for them.
No,
yeah, I'm feeling...
we kill it in here. That's the kill room. We kill it in here.
Exactly.
Killing this podcast thing.
I don't know. Maybe we need to rename it. Maybe it should just be the Sasquatch Den.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, and when we were on our road trip last year, we came up with a rating system. Now, it was specifically for gift shops. And it was squatches. So it was, how many squatches do you give this gift shop? And we did come across a couple five squatch gift shops, but normally it was one or two. So what would you give our studio in squatches?
In terms of squatches, I think it's a solid 3 to 4 squatches. You need more squatches. I was going to ask you about your squatch rating system. Is it the number of squatches in the gift shop or the squatchiness, the general squatchy quality of the gift shop? I think it's just
more about like what you have there and the price.
And also the feel of it.
Yeah, and the feel, yeah.
There was one right outside of the Redwoods that the whole gift shop was all stuff made with redwood, right?
Oh,
so it was every weird thing made of redwood. And then there was lots of stuff that had Bigfoot on it. Mm-hmm. It was kitschy, weird, covered in dust and spiders, slightly creepy. The proprietor was very creepy.
Like he seemed annoyed to have customers.
Right?
He was so grouchy.
Wow.
But the whole experience was memorable enough that I was like, that could be a solid 3 squatches because you will remember going to that gift shop.
Yeah.
Now, the gift shop, after going through the chandelier tree, so one of those redwoods you can drive through, you pay $15 to drive through a dry, dusty park. And then there's a giant redwood that has a hole cut out of the bottom that can barely fit. Most cars can't go through it. Like, we were in an Audi A5 wagon.
It was a Quattro.
Yeah, and it barely fit through.
Right. If we were bigger than a sedan, a small car,
Yeah, if you were an SUV, no way. You couldn't drive through it. So you would have paid $15 to go in and drive around the tree.
And you can't see it till you get far back.
Yeah.
I'd just be a little disappointed. I wish I could fit my car through the tree, but it's
got to go around. I just paid $15 to drive through something I can't drive through.
Curse is foiled
And if you
again.
think of the squatches, like they're tall, sometimes they're wide.
Right.
They might not be able to fit.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
I think they'd have to duck.
Yeah, you would have been able to fit 2 squatches side by side if they had ducked. And then the gift shop was lame and so overpriced. And it was just everything we had seen in every other gift shop. And I felt ripped off and disappointed. And then...
So they got a 1.
It got a 1. I was very upset with that one. Yeah, 1 squatch.
That's fair.
That's fair. Yeah. I have to say, given that there are no prices in this room, that's an immediate 5 squatches.
Oh, and actually everything's either been found on the side of the road or from the dump pile in my shop or, somewhere in my house or her house. Actually, these walls came from her old deck.
Amazing. Additional squatches for
yes,
sustainability.
so-
Yes.
Maybe
we
six
pricing
squatches.
goes,
Can we?
it's pretty good.
Can we have bonus squatch? I want to give it like 6 out of 5 squatches. It's solid. It's solid.
Well, it will be once we get art on the walls.
Yeah.
So we're going to paint these 2 walls with some murals or maybe put moss on them or something.
Yeah, make it very northwesty.
Yes. So it's a work in progress as we go along. We're going to get some nice candles for in here, but for now it works. So Stephen and Laura have joined us today for our stories, just for some good times. But you should definitely check out their podcast. The Midday Musings Podcast comes out, 4 days a week? 3 days a week?
At this point, we were 4 days a week. We're down to 3 days a week. But yeah, so every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're releasing new content. Bite-sized 20-minute episodes you can listen to over your lunch break. We just talk about a lot of it's whatever's on our mind, but more than anything these days, it's been about media. We talk about what we're seeing, what we're listening, what we're watching, and just our thoughts on it.
Yeah. It's a great little escape. Their banter is wonderful, intelligent conversation. I always leave feeling just slightly smarter.
I also, sorry, Stephen, but Laura's voice is just like, I felt like it was so calming. I just love listening to it. And so when I was listening to your podcast, and the other thing is, I love how brief it is. You pack in a lot of information in it in such a brief time. And I'm like, wait, I listened to like 3 the other day just because I was cleaning. So I was like, but on a regular day, that's about all I have time for. So I loved it. I got movie review. We have some ghost stories, which I thought we have some ghost stories ourselves. So this is, they match up. It's a really great podcast.
Yeah, Shay and I are actually using the same ghost story book.
Oh.
I don't know if you guys are making content on it later, but Ghosts of the Pacific Northwest.
The
Margaret
library
Reed-
is still holding it for me. I need to go. I'm number 1
It's
in
'cause Laura
line.
has it.
I know. We have 1 of 3 copies.
I actually bought it
got
from some obscure site online. It's not even there anymore.
We appreciate you guys so much for coming down. We've been looking forward to this. This is really exciting. So, Jody, tell us more.
Back to the story of Frances Elena Farmer, who was born September 19th, 1913 in Seattle, Washington. Our city, known for its rain, grunge music, and coffee obsession, back then in the early 20th century, it was also the birthplace of a young woman who would go on to challenge Hollywood's standards and pay a really steep price for it. Growing up in Seattle, Frances was a smart, headstrong girl with a fierce sense of independence. She was the daughter of a lawyer and a homemaker, but it was clear early on that Frances wasn't destined to be quiet and live a domestic life.
Not with a name like Frances.
Frances.
I should
Too
bring that back.
fiery.
It was.
Yes.
It does seem fiery, doesn't it? She attended West Seattle High School, where she quickly made a name for herself as an outspoken and rebellious student.
Hey, do we have anybody from West Seattle in the house?
Woo! Do we?
Yeah, we do actually. I mean,
Represent.
Yeah.
West Seattle. Man, didn't go to the high school, but yeah, we love it.
But
love it.
but you have reference to
Oh,
it. It's
yeah.
in your neighborhood. Yep.
Oh yeah, we do.
And
It is.
now
I
you
think we
know
passed
a
by
very
it.
famous Hollywood actress went to high school there, and she made her name known while she was in high school.
Every time
Big
we drive by
rebel
West
vibes.
Seattle High School, we'll be like, "Ah, there she is. That's
Yep.
Francis's school."
That's
If only
Frances'
we had been
school.
here earlier, we could have also been a rebellious child at West Seattle High School.
Man,
Were you
I know.
rebellious
These-
children?
Hard
That's-
no.
Oh, I was going to say this is what I have in common with her.
I love that. I
naughty.
want to hear nothing but more of that.
Was I rebellious? I was out there. I was doing a lot of stuff. I wouldn't say I was rebellious, but in the context of my family, I was rebellious because they were like incredibly conservative. So I was like, I'm dating girls, and they're like, that's so rebellious.
Yeah.
So I was rebellious, but not by society standards,
Right,
just
right,
by
right.
my own family standards.
Right.
So I feel you, Frances.
Yeah. Actually, this is a kind of where she feels most of her pain is other people. They see her as rebellious, where she's just being herself.
Right?
She's just vibing.
Yeah.
They weren't ready for her.
They weren't ready for her.
She's breaking past those preconceived ideas of what a woman should be. When was this?
She was born in 1913, so the 1930s when action really gets going.
We
here
were
for
supposed
her.
to be demure
Yes, demure
and subservient.
well, you definitely weren't running around drinking and driving.
But actually, though, the 1920s, that's like a seismic shift for
That's true.
female rights. So she
Absolutely.
was like a baby child
Right,
looking at
that's
all of
true,
these girls
actually.
smoking and probably being like, I'm going to be a
Showing off
progressive
their
new woman.
ankles.
You're actually right.
Yeah.
She's cutting edge more than.
Mm-hmm.
No, she's of her time.
Yeah,
she is
she is.
vanguarding.
Yeah, she is.
Continue.
Great call. Back to Frances. We digress again. And in 1931, at the age of 18, she won a contest with an essay titled God Dies. A bold
Ooh.
declaration for early atheistic views. Headlines read, Seattle girl denies God and wins prize. Yeah,
That
so
is
she
a
made headlines,
Killer headline.
Wow.
right?
That is a great
In high
headline.
school, she made headlines. And this is where her quote came from that I started with. She was talking about her experience post-essay, where she made the local newspaper, but it goes farther. Frances continued her education at the University of Washington, majoring in drama and journalism. It was during these college years that she discovered her love of acting, a passion that would eventually lead her to Hollywood, but not before making a brief detour. Thanks to her winning a trip to the Soviet Union for a college essay competition. Yes, she went to the Soviet Union because she won her essay. It was a college competition. She must have resubmitted it because it was her essay, God Dies, that won her a trip to the Soviet Union, and it raised a lot of eyebrows.
Sure.
Yeah, those are some bold moves.
Yeah.
It was, to be brought over to the enemy to display her great atheistic views was not looked upon kindly over here in the United States. So this actually would come back to haunt her in the 1940s in Hollywood. Because if you remember what was happening in the 1940s in Hollywood, the McCarthy hearings.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll get there.
So she was definitely a commie.
She was a commie for sure. And being an atheist and having her ties, being celebrated in Russia.
Oh, yeah.
And she would deny having any communist beliefs per se, but she was atheist and she did display her work in Russia.
The John Birchers would have hated her.
Yeah. Lots of people did. Yes, because that was the same era. Yep.
Yeah.
After college, Frances headed to Hollywood, where she quickly caught the eye of studio executives with her striking looks and undeniable talent. And she was very striking. Looking up photos of her, very striking. Even at some point, she gets arrested for a DUI. So there's a picture of her sitting at this desk, and she is a wreck. Like, her hair is everywhere, and her clothes are kind of a mess, and you can tell she's drunk, and she is stunning.
It's
Just a
high
beautiful
fashion.
mess.
Yeah, she's
Wow.
a beautiful mess. And these are 1940s photographs. So it's not like it was 1930s photographs. So they're not the highest of quality, but yet you can really clearly see she's stunning.
On her worst day, she
On her
looks better than we
worst
could
day.
hope.
Right,
Put a lot of effort in.
I'm like, she is definitely a hot mess.
And we love a beautiful rebel, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean,
We do.
that's totally what she's
Very
embodying. there.
Yes,
inspirational.
absolutely.
She goes on to inspire many people. So with that kind of rebellion. In 1936, she signed a contract with Paramount Pictures and soon after landed roles in films Come and Get It and Rhythm on the Range. Frances wasn't your typical Hollywood starlet. She was known for her fiery personality and her refusal to conform to the studio system's expectations. She rejected the glamorous lifestyle, often clashing with studio heads who wanted to mold her into a perfect starlet.
Is she like the J-Law of her time, Jennifer Lawrence?
Oh gosh, I think she's more like maybe an Angelina Jolie, like the middle fingers up. You're not going to tell me how to be.
Oh yeah,
Early-
and the beautiful mess part.
Yeah,
Definitely.
early Angie.
Yeah.
Got a little bit of blood and a necklace
Yeah,
somewhere.
Kissing
Not
her brother
Did
full
she?
on the lips.
Wait, what?
Oh, Angelina
don't know
Jolie
these
did
I
that.
heard blood and necklace and kissed her brother
Okay.
on the
Oh,
lips.
let's fill
he's not-
Steven in.
Yeah, Angelina Jolie lore, you are.
Okay, so
You need
we're
to
going
catch
to
up.
digress here for a moment, take a pause from another amazing woman. So Angelina Jolie starred in a movie in the 1990s called Hackers. Short hair, no bra, and I was like, whoa. Whoa, do I like girls now?
Or is it just Angelina Jolie?
Oh
It
my
might
gosh.
be.
But her brother also had those big full lips, and she made headlines at a red carpet when she brought her brother as her date, and on the red carpet fully kissed him on the lips.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody was like,
and it
whoa.
lasted maybe a half a second too long.
Yeah, it was a little like, what goes on in this family? This is
Yeah.
John Voight's daughter, right? You know that, right? That John Voight is her father. They were estranged for a long time, too.
Oh,
I
okay.
think
Okay.
they're on and off estranged still.
Yeah.
Back and
Yeah,
forth.
it seems like a complicated family.
Yeah.
with just
Absolutely.
those two
And then
pieces
the-
of information.
The blood, wasn't that Billy Bob
It was Billy
Thornton's
Bob
blood?
Thornton.
Yeah,
She was
yeah.
married to him
They put-
briefly.
They put each other's blood in a little vial and wore it.
Yeah, another red carpet event.
Yes.
She was the talk of all red carpets she walked.
Sounds like
Yes.
she was the queen of like throwing red flags on
Yeah.
the red carpet. I'm just saying.
Keep messing
Oh
with
my
me.
gosh.
I think they talked about like that part of their sex play was knife play.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
The late 90s were an
Wild.
increasingly open.
Yeah. So I think
Situation.
Frances, she probably is a little more like Angelina Jolie than Jennifer Lawrence.
Okay.
Where Jennifer Lawrence is just quirky and is like, I can't eat this.
Yeah. Yeah. This one's
Or
a little
like,
bit
I'm going to
more
go
in your
home and
face.
have pizza after this.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So rebellious
After this
eating
red
food.
carpet. I know.
But while Frances's career was on the rise, so were her personal demons. The pressures of Hollywood, combined with her increasingly heavy drinking, began to take a toll, and by the 1930s, her behavior had become more erratic, and her reputation as a difficult actress started to really overshadow her talent.
Oh no, she's Brittany Murphy.
Oh, sad day.
Oh, that is a sad tale, too.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were those pesky rumors about her being a communist sympathizer.
Oh,
her
boy.
trip to the Soviet Union in the 1930s had been innocent enough as a college adventure, but in politically charged atmosphere of the time, it was enough to put her under suspicion. Frances was never directly involved in politics, but the label stuck, adding more fuel to the fire of her crumbling career.
I bet she used fluoridated toothpaste.
Oh, I probably because she was totally on the wrong side. She was a communist.
I mean, that is a communist plot
Yeah.
to control the minds of Americans.
Oh, I feel very controlled when I
When I have
Fluoridated
zero cavities.
I feel in
My
control of
mind
my
is
dental
control,
hygiene.
but my teeth are so strong.
Right?
My teeth are like they're like they have a little communist flag for some
Yeah,
reason. I don't know what
exactly.
happens. Like after I brush my teeth.
Instead of fillings, I have communist flags
Yeah.
in my teeth.
Like after I brush my teeth, I just kind of softly hear the Russian national anthem
Yeah.
playing in my head. I don't know what it is. And it goes away after a while. I think it's the fluoride.
Actually, it's the North Korean flag because of John Bircher recently came out and said, I wouldn't be surprised if the fluoride in Chinese toothpaste was nuclear waste from North Korea
Oh, God.
They buy it and have it shipped over.
in bulk. They get a discount.
Comes over in those tins
And nobody worries about nuclear waste just being shipped.
across the sea.
Yeah, they don't care at all. They're like, that's waste product. It's fine. Do whatever you want with it. Toothpaste, that's fine. Baby formula, cool. Sorry.
Yeah, just put it in there. It's fine.
This world is weird.
It's a small enough amount. It won't impact you. As the 1940s rolled around, Frances Farmer's life was spiraling out of control. Her drinking worsened, leading to a series of public outbursts and arrests. And in 1942, she was convicted of drinking and driving. After failing to appear in court, she was arrested again and sentenced to jail time. It was a stark contrast to the glamorous image Hollywood tried to project for her. Things took an even darker turn when Frances was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. This diagnosis would lead to a horrifying chapter in her life. In 1943, after a series of public breakdowns and clashes with the law, Frances was committed to Western State Hospital in Steilacoom, Washington. What happened to her there is the stuff of nightmares. I think she's actually more well known for her stay at Western State Hospital
Yeah.
than her work as an actress. I think being an actress highlights her stay at Western State Hospital, but the discussions and topics that come up about her later is all about her mental state as an actress. But
Yeah, there was a lot of institutionalization
yes,
back then.
it was
so
very
it's-
easy to be institutionalized. We had a list that was a crazy list. One that I thought was very interesting is kleptomania could get you committed. That was a mental illness if you were rich. If you were not rich, then you were a criminal.
Yeah, that feels true.
But yes, you could be hysteria, melancholy would get you committed to
Yeah,
Western State Hospital.
postpartum depression was a widely used reason to
Yeah.
have
Commit
somebody
people.
committed and
And then
yeah.
the treatments for
Even up to the 60s. Like, I mean, there's
Yeah.
The Bell Jar and another Angelina Jolie movie, Girl Interrupted, takes
Yes.
place
That
during
movie.
that time. My mom was alive during that time, and she said that nobody talked about their mental health specifically to avoid
Yes.
any discussion of institutionalization. And I'm like,
the holidays sneak up fast, and holiday shopping can be a stressful task. But with this week's sponsor, Uncommon Goods, you can cross names off your list and actually enjoy it. Uncommon Goods makes holiday shopping stress-free and joyful, with thousands of one-of-a-kind gifts you can't find anywhere else.
Their stuff is so original, handmade, small batch, often made right here in the United States. It's like shopping a local market from your couch.
I grabbed the Glitter Hearts toilet bombs. Drop one in, and it fizzes like a bath bomb for your bathroom. Smell like pine, cedar, and maybe Bigfoot's cologne. Perfect for post-holiday dinner emergencies. I also got the murder mystery jigsaw puzzles. The boxes look like old novels, and the puzzle itself hides the clues to solve a murder. It's such a smart twist. Part game, part story, total brain candy.
My finds were the National Park water bottle because I'm determined to visit all of them. And the Slumber and Serenity Spa box. It's lavender, it's eucalyptus, it's a gift of relaxation in a box.
Every purchase supports artists and small businesses, and Uncommon Goods donates $1 to a nonprofit of your choice. Over 3 million so far.
So shop early, have fun, and cross some names off your list today. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RDRH.
That's uncommongoods.com/RDRH for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods.
We are all out of the ordinary.
Mom, that's really dark.
Yes. Further in our Western State Hospital, we talk about the cemetery across the way, which just has, until recently, had numbers. There was no names, no dates of birth or death. And the reason was to protect families because these were patients from Western State Hospital. Nobody discussed
From the
this.
stigma of the besmirchment of your good name by somebody with a mental health issue. Yeah.
But Grave Concerns is a nonprofit group that went through, and now those are all labeled. They went through and put new gravestones on. But
great work.
they used to hide that because of that reason. Nobody talked about it.
That's why it's been such an uphill battle to destigmatize mental health. Because it's like everybody has some sort of mental health.
Right. We're
problem
impacted
that
by
they-
life,
yeah,
which is not always rosy.
Right.
I mean, you have losses and traumas. There's no getting through it.
And normality is a moving target
Always.
every generation. So
Right.
any deviation from the norm really would probably put you on some mental health spectrum.
Right.
And I think we're probably in the first 30 years of that being kind of chill.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that work actually, interestingly enough, comes from the entertainment industry. Entertainers being open about their mental health crises, destigmatizing it,
Yes.
glamorizing it to a certain degree, and the glamorization effectively destigmatizes it. So we're it all works with this
And now
particular
hopefully,
topic.
because as a nurse, this has always bothered me. And I did my clinicals at Western State Hospital for mental health. And we just, we have all this research into cancer and heart disease and whatever else is in our body, but we have not done the work when it comes to mental illness, or we haven't made the strides that we've made with the rest of our body. And it's stunning to me. This is a whole separate part of your insurance.
Right.
It's hard to get. It's not treated like if I had a liver tumor.
Yeah.
It's something else, even to my insurance company. So it's frustrating, and I'm hoping maybe the destigmatization may lead to better research and treatment.
Undoubtedly, but we also have the technology gap too, right?
Yes.
Like neuroimaging is not very far along. It's maybe 25 years old, and that's our only real way to study the brain, because you can't study a living brain physically. And we are not in a place, thankfully, where we're taking people's brains and studying them in clinical settings, because no one's disposable, which is another advancement that we have come to in the last 30 years. So good job, everyone.
People that were in prison were disposable.
We have to get more creative and at our research, because we can't do those things to people anymore. Okay, back to the story where Francis is now committed to Western State Hospital. And Western State Hospital is not exactly the cushy rehab center you might think it would be.
It's
Just
not
kidding.
Maui.
Nobody ever thinks that.
What's the Maui one that all the stars go to? It's
on
a cliff overlooking the ocean.
Right. 45 days on your insurance.
It's like called Maui Dreams. It's $20,000 a month or more.
Sounds like a luxurious.
I know.
More like a vacation than
Can
a
we just go
mental
to
health
Hawaii
treatment.
for that?
But before we dive into her harrowing treatments, let us treat you to our humane and kind sponsors.
Oh, that was so nice.
Welcome back. And by the way, if you'd like to hear ad-free episodes on our Patreon, please go to rainydayrabbitholes.com and sign up. In addition to ad-free episodes, you will get bonus content. You will also get smarter, funnier, and overall happier.
And whiter teeth, too, because of all of that communist fluoride.
Whatever it is, maybe you get a six-pack abs.
Who knows?
Underneath
laughing,
benefits.
laughing may encourage six-pack abs.
Exactly.
All right, back to Frances Farmer, who at this point is in Western State Hospital, diagnosed with schizophrenia, and now she is subjected to brutal treatments, including electroconvulsive therapy, ECT,
Yike.
and insulin shock therapy, which I had not heard of until doing this research. So they gave her high doses of insulin to the point of causing convulsions and a coma in belief that such trauma could jolt a disordered brain. As an RN who's dealt with like insulin drips, like we're constantly, continuously monitoring your sugars and adjusting your insulin. This is terrifying, especially back in that day. I can't imagine they have a glucometer that's giving them instant numbers that they could address.
It's like the essential logic behind these treatments is some iteration of shake them.
Yeah, right.
Shake
Slap
them.
them.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Shake her up. Just, she's so
Like
she's so
in
upset.
1930s
Just
movies. Just
Right.
put her to sleep. Put her to sleep. She's too upset. She won't be upset when she's asleep. No one's upset when they're asleep. But
Right.
Oh my gosh.
It's like bring him to
That's
the brink
insane.
of death, and maybe that'll help him.
Right. So the practices at that time were common, but are now viewed as barbaric.
Hey, you could murder somebody.
Yes, it happened.
by giving them too much insulin.
Oh, yes, it happened. We, in our Western State Hospital episode, cover that and how a lot of people went missing due to these covering up these treatments.
Yeah,
So-
they'd get these treatments, and then their families would show up to see them, and they'd be like, "We have no idea who you're talking about. They've never been here."
who is that? It's also such a wild time because the man who developed the lobotomy treatment, he won a Nobel Prize. That is Nobel Prize winning technology.
Right. And we all pause in retro. We're all evaluating that.
Just thinking about the lobotomy.
Put our hands over our eyes.
It's also very timely because as we continue, it was reported that she underwent a lobotomy
Oh gosh.
by writer William Arnold in his 1978 book Shadowland. And then it was carried on in subsequent films about Frances Farmer, but it is actually false. There's no evidence that she was given a lobotomy in her records or by reports by her or her family. It's just never, it was only in that book and then that took off. So it's not
That's
true.
more dramatic.
But perhaps the most harrowing part of her time at Western State were the allegations of sexual assault. Frances later claimed that she was raped by both orderlies and other patients frequently, a tragic testament to the vulnerability of patients in this institution. It was very common.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's horrible.
Especially when it's staff. You've got other mentally ill people, yes, protect patients from other patients, but the staff, that's a whole nother thing. It's just open.
It's the people that are supposed to be caring.
Yeah, it's literally their job to take care of you. How can you trust anyone if your caretakers are just abusing you too?
Right. And as a nurse, I see people come in and, I worked in heart attacks. So they'd come in and we'd clear up their arteries and send them away. And you don't know me for Adam, and you don't know that doctor from Adam, and you don't know the other people from Adam, and you are trusting us. And that is so important to me, that every time a patient comes in, that's my loved one. That's how I'm treating this. That's how serious it is. And you have to trust that. And thinking of people that would sexually assault patients is just, it gets me infuriated. Anyway, back to the story. Frances Farmer spent nearly 5 years in and out of institutions, with the worst of it all happening at Western State Hospital. In 1949, thanks to the persistence of her parents, she was finally released from the hospital. By this point, the bright, rebellious starlet who had once lit up the screen was a shadow of her former self.
I'm sure.
After her release, Frances tried to rebuild her life, but it was an uphill battle. She took on odd jobs and even made a brief return to acting, appearing in a few television shows and stage productions in the 1950s. But the spark that had once defined her was gone, and she lived a quiet, reclusive life in Indianapolis, far from Hollywood and far from Seattle.
Well, I'm sure besides all the horrible treatments, they probably drugged her up with Thorazine and lithium there was no tomorrow, which makes you a zombie.
Yeah, we call it the Thorazine shuffle.
Yeah, I have an aunt who has schizophrenia, and when she was on Thorazine, she was just a zombie. She would just sit there and she would rock. She would smoke. and she would rock.
Yep.
In a chair that wasn't meant to be rocked, by the way.
Yeah, the treatments are not, and that we still aren't much better.
Well,
People with schizophrenia still are walking around like that.
Well, maybe, she experienced a lot of stuff in Hollywood and in Washington. And so maybe for her getting out of there and going to Indianapolis, going to a place where she doesn't have any memory of bad stuff going down, maybe that was cathartic for her, like getting out of it all, getting away from
Absolutely.
it. So,
Yeah,
From
my
the
understanding is that Indianapolis is very therapeutic.
I'll keep that in mind. I might have to visit.
you can watch the cars go around at the Indy 500, just watch them go around.
Yeah,
and around.
yeah, that's
They're predictable and none of the cars are trying to hurt you.
Exactly.
It's about routine.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure, too, her abuses probably didn't start in the institutions because Hollywood was notorious for
And
abusing the young stars.
She's a little different than other stars. I would not be surprised, this is speculation, but just about reading about her and looking at pictures of her, I wouldn't be surprised if she was a lesbian. And that probably played
A lesbian and a communist?
right? So it.
Oh, was she part of Claudette Colbert's sewing circle?
Yeah, maybe.
Ooh,
Yeah,
maybe.
I'll have to look into that.
I'm gonna
She
have
was
to-
just a little bit more carried herself a little more on the masculine side and acted a little bit more.
So she
That
was
way.
bucking
Yeah.
a lot of the...
A lot of things.
expectations
That's
of
total speculation,
conformity.
just on what I'm reading and seeing, and kind of how her relationships were going, but never was that reported.
Well, it probably wouldn't be in that time anyway.
Right, exactly. But I'm sure it would add more to her.
Because that was also a mental illness back then.
Yes,
so maybe
absolutely,
that's part of the
exactly.
treatments.
But maybe she was just living with a close friend.
Yes.
Her companion.
Oh, I got to say, I love when you go to these old buildings and they're like, John so-and-so lived with a close friend for 50 years and then never remarried. Like, you mean his boyfriend? His close male friend. They were not lovers. Are you sure?
Domestic partner.
But then you see a picture of him and it's like an excellent, gorgeous waxed mustache. And you're like, that is a well-groomed man. Making me even more suspicious of this narrative.
Frances Farmer passed away in 1970 from esophageal cancer. That's very common in alcoholics, by the way. She was just 56 years old. Her story is one of immense talent and potential, crushed by a system that didn't know how to deal with a woman who refused to play by its rules. Her struggles with mental illness and the horrific treatment she endured are reminders of how far we have come and how far we still have to go.
Yeah.
Up next, Frances Farmer goes grunge. But first, we need to let our sponsors lighten the mood. Welcome back. By the way, if you would like to hear ad-free episodes on our Patreon, please go to rainydayrabbitholes.com and sign up. In addition to ad-free episodes and bonus content, you will get fitter, hotter, and prettier. Is that all the same thing?
No,
Okay.
but you could look just like us.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. You could become more like Shay and Jody.
You could have this excellent skin and those giant... Oh, I said... I can't say that.
5 full
Bleep,
squatches.
Bleep, bleep. All right, now back to the story. Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn into the world of grunge music and another troubled soul from the Pacific Northwest, Kurt Cobain. For those who may not know, Kurt Cobain was the lead singer and guitarist for Nirvana, one of the most influential bands of 1990s. Cobain was a deeply introspective and often tormented artist, much like Frances Farmer in her day. So what's the connection between these two iconic yet tragic figures? Well, it turns out Kurt Cobain was fascinated by the story of Frances Farmer. He saw in her a kind of kindred spirit, someone who had been crushed by the very system that had once celebrated her. This connection led Cobain to write the song Frances Farmer Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle, which was featured in Nirvana's 1993 album In Utero.
Oh.
The song reflects Cobain's disillusionment with fame and the music industry, themes that closely paralleled Frances's own struggle in Hollywood. The song's title alone suggests that Kurt Cobain saw Frances as someone who had been wronged by society and whose legacy deserved redemption. In many ways, the song immortalized Frances Farmer for a new generation who had never heard of her, making sure her story was never forgotten. For Kurt Cobain, Frances represented the ultimate cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of fame and societal pressures that can destroy even the brightest stars.
It was just so sad because, I mean, his ending.
Yep. He controlled his own ending more than she did. But I mean, unless you believe the conspiracy theories. Kurt and his wife at the time, Courtney Love, named their only daughter, Frances Bean Cobain, in honor of Frances Farmer. So that's where their only daughter's name came
Out of
from.
town. I had no idea. I love Kurt Cobain, but I did not know the history and the connection to Frances Farmer. That is, that's rich with nuance now.
Yeah,
meaning.
right.
I
When you
love
listen to that album or that song or read about him now, it has a different meaning.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, when he named his daughter, looking into that, knowing that he named his daughter and had that song. So I had read about it before. So that's why I want to make sure to include it in the story. But yeah, more recent ties. Frances Farmer's life was often viewed as a cautionary tale, a warning of what can happen when the pressures of fame collide with untreated mental illness. But it's also a story about the dangers of a society that doesn't tolerate nonconformity, especially in women. Frances was ahead of her time in many ways. Her atheism, her rejection of Hollywood's superficiality, her refusal to be anything other than herself. But these same qualities that made her unique made her a target. And let's not forget the rumors of her communist ties. In a paranoid atmosphere of mid-20th century America, those suspicions were enough to further isolate her from the Hollywood elite. Whether or not Frances actually made any political leanings is beside the point. The mere association was enough to damage her already fragile career. As we look back on Frances Farmer's life, it's important to recognize her not just as a tragic figure, but as a woman who fought against the constraints of her time, and her story may have ended in heartbreak, but her legacy as a rebellious spirit endures. And I think it's so timely now, that piece of it.
Yeah.
That rebellious spirit. We will not conform or be controlled.
Yeah, I love it. That was such a good story.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Keep looking into Frances Farmer. She's deeper than what we can put into this podcast. So everyone out there, there's lots of information about her, and she's very interesting.
Yeah, I gotta say, her story really resonates with me. It's just, it's got so much. I feel like there's opportunity there for that story to be retold in a number of different ways if it isn't already out there in like a book or a movie or something.
Oh,
Like it's got so much.
There's several, but they've, for the most part, sensationalized her, used, the lobotomy part of the story, which is untrue. And so it would be nice to see something out there that treated Frances Farmer for the person she was, the human she was, with humanity and truth.
And she's so emblematic of the Pacific Northwest character, I think. There's such a high tolerance for diversity of expression, opinion, and certainly grunge here, but that is the polar opposite of LA.
Right.
So
that's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where it's
this
about
is
conforming to a certain ideal of what a star is supposed to look like, act like, be like.
Yeah, they'll actually audition you in appearance clusters. So if you're a redhead, you will audition for a redheaded part, or if you're a blonde, you will not be in that same audition, or if you're a brunette, you won't be in that same audition. Body types, racial presentation, just height. It's all so categorized just from the appearance side, and then also the type side. But up here in the Pacific Northwest, like we have 8,000 iterations of the way you can be a woman, and 8,000 iterations of man, squatch, whatever.
She may not even made a wave in this era.
No, we would not have blinked an eye.
Her essay may have been like put to the bottom of the
Yeah.
uninteresting.
We'd be like, atheist, potentially lesbian, communist. Fine, that's my.
Okay.
That sounds like my neighbor.
You're too ordinary.
I know. Like, we have an entire town for you. It's called Bellingham. You're going to love it there.
Right. Poor Frances Farmer.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's such a good story. Thank you so much.
She's gained a spot in my heart.
I know.
Same.
Well, thank you, Laura and Stephen, for
Yes.
joining us for this episode. It's great to have
Thank
you
you
here.
so much.
Yeah, thank you for teaching us things.
Yeah,
I feel
thanks.
smarter already.
Thanks for having us. I learned so much, and I gotta look up Frances Farmer now because there's just so many questions I have about like, wait, what? How did she get there? And
Right. Yeah.
where
I
did
know.
she end up?
I only have like this brief episode. I could do. We
Right.
could do a whole series on her.
Look at this. We've sparked curiosity.
Yep. That's what
It's
we
our
do.
job. Well, we appreciate you guys coming on. Everyone, please go check out the Midday Musings podcast 3 to sometimes 4 times a week.
It's really well worth it.
It's your little cozy corner of the internet. It's always uplifting. It's always a good time. And like I said, I always, especially Laura, like your conversation is so intelligent. I always come away going like, I just had a conversation with the smartest person and I don't feel dumber for it. Thank
Wow.
you.
I'm going to ride that compliment all day. Thank you.
Well, you can save this recording and play it every day in your car.
Yeah. Might be my new plan.
Well, we're definitely going to have them back on the podcast soon. So make sure that you are subscribed, like, follow, and review us. Remember, you can go to Rainy Day Rabbit Holes for everything, including joining our Patreon, finding more information about these episodes. We'll post pictures of Francis Farmer on there. And we will see you next time.
See you down the rabbit hole.